Welcome. We are the Ministry of the Real Truth, and we've gone back to the beginning before, if you can put it this way, in the beginning, as detailed in Genesis, to the era of the Paleolithic period along the Mediterranean coastline and the Neolithic period in Western Europe. We are looking at the homini, or the hominoid, or the hominid, and the Neanderthals. And we've come across this lecture from Providence College, Nashville, USA, lecture series, What Human Genomics Can Tell Us About Adam and Eve. This is a Roman Catholic perspective, but it could be interesting. And it reads, in recent years, biologists have sequenced the genomes of numerous individuals scattered throughout the planet. They have also been able to obtain genome information from extinct hominin species, including Neanderthals and Denisovans. Altogether, this data suggests that the human species evolved from a small population of individuals living in East Africa about 100,000 years ago. In this lecture, using the inseparable and harmonious benefits of faith and reason, Father Nicanor Austracio, OP, will not only explore the scientific basis for these claims, but also begin to reconcile them with the truths of the faith revealed in sacred scripture. Father Nicanor Austracio, OP, Ph.D, S.T.L.Father, Nicanor, Pier, Giorgio, Austracio, OP, is an associate professor of biology at Providence College. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Engineering, Bachelor of Science in Engineering, Bioengineering from the University of Pennsylvania, a Ph.D in Biology from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and a Bachelor of Sacred Theology and a Licentiate in Sacred Theology, both from the Dominican House of Studies in Washington, D.C., USA. Father has also served as Fellow of the International Human Frontier Science Program for the Ludwig Institute for Cancer Research at University College London. The subjects for his research and published work range from the life cycle of yeast to bioethics to moral theology. His most recent work is a book titled Biomedicine and Beatitude, an introduction to Catholic bioethics, published in December 2011 by the Catholic University of America Press. Here, saying a population of individuals living in East Africa about 1,000 years ago. Altogether, this data suggests that the human species evolved from a small population of individuals living in East Africa about 100,000 years ago. So we've looked at supposed evidence data online, and we are looking at list of first human settlements. This is a list of dates associated with the prehistoric peopling of the world, first known presence of Homo sapiens. This list is divided into 4 categories: Middle Paleolithic, before 50,000 years ago; Upper Paleolithic, 50,000 to 12,500 years ago; Holocene, (12,500 to 500 years ago), and modern age of sail and modern exploration. List entries are identified by region. In this case of genetic evidence, spatial resolution is limited, or region, country, or island, with the date of the first known or hypothesized, let's guess that, modern human presence or settlement, although Paleolithic humans were not sedentary. Human settlements does not necessarily have to be continuous. Settled areas in some cases become depopulated due to environmental conditions such as glacial periods or the Toba volcanic eruption. Early Homo sapiens migrated out of Africa. In paleoanthropology, the recent African origin of modern humans, also called the out of Africa theory, OOA, recent single origin hypothesis, RSOH, replacement hypothesis, or recent African origin model. It's the dominant mode, or modern concept, right? From as early as 270,000 years ago. Although these early migrations may have died out and permanent Homo sapien presence outside of Africa may not have been established until about 70 to 50,000 years ago. Okay, that's all based on probably based around the out of Africa theory. There are many who debunk it, say it's incorrect. There's modern scientists, etc. Okay, so here it says Middle Paleolithic. Before Homo sapiens, Homo erectus, an extinct species of archaic human from the Pleistocene, sounds like Pleistocene, with its earliest occurrence about 2 million years ago. Several human species such as H. heidelbergensis and H. antecessor were formerly generally considered, and whatever information followed with that. Okay, so before Homo sapiens, Homo erectus had already spread throughout Africa and non-Arctic Eurasia by about 1 million years ago. The oldest known evidence for anatomically modern humans, AMH, terms used to distinguish Homo sapiens that are anatomically consistent with the range of phenotypes seen in contemporary humans from extinct archaic human remains. As of 2017, our fossils found at Jebel el-Hood, Morocco, dated about 360,000 years ago. So it's got here Africa, North Africa, Morocco, anatomically modern human remains of 8 individuals dated 300,000 years ago, 300,000 years old, making them the oldest known remains categorized as modern as of 2018. And then Neanderthal admixture coming out of Turkey. There is evidence for interbreeding between archaic and modern humans during the Middle Paleolithic and early Upper Paleolithic. The interbreeding happened in several independent events that included Neanderthals and hominoids, or human beings. Okay. So genetic evidence for early Homo sapiens admixture to Neanderthals in West Asia discovered in 2017. So that would verify what was found in the original ancient or very old manuscripts, Old Testament manuscripts in the sacred scribal old tongue or language, Lishana Artica Cyprea, or the language that God spoke to Adam and Eve and to the men at the Tower of Babel, of the Assyrian Aramaic or Aramaic, or from the Tav Asherit or Asheri, which is supposedly the older sister language of the Tav Ivri or the original ancient very old Hebrew. Okay, here's the Horn of Africa, Ethiopia, Omo Kabish Formation, the Omo remains of modern humans found in 1967 near the Ethiopian Kabish Mountains, dated stratigraphically to 195 plus 5 Ka, may be related to Ledi Geraru. And plenty more here. Asia, West Asia, Israel. Fossil maxilla is apparently older than remains found at Skyhill and Quasquafzir. Layers dating from between 250,000 and 140,000 years ago in the same cave contain tools of the Levallois. Is that? Not too sure. A distinct type of stone napping developed around 250,000 to 300,000 years ago during the Middle Paleolithic period, part of the Mousterian stone tool industry. Okay, a type which could be put to date of the first migration even earlier if the tools can be associated with modern human jawbone finds. Okay, there's plenty more there. Upper Paleolithic, South America, hypothetical Pleistocene peopling of the Americas. Charcoal from the oldest layers yielded dates of 41,000 to 56,000 BP. Before present years or years present before. A time scale used mainly in archaeology, geology and other scientific disciplines to specify when events occurred relative to the origin of practical radiocarbon dating in the 1950s. And there's plenty more information there. Holocene. Paleolithic, Neolithic, and pre-modern human migration. And you have modern, age of sail, age of discovery, timeline of European exploration and polar exploration. And there's see also references. There's a lot there. External links, National Geographic, etc. Okay, so we went to look at this news report, earliest evidence of humans outside of Africa, by a Professor Zhao Yu Shu. Scientists say they've found the earliest known evidence of a human present outside Africa. Stone tools discovered in China suggest primitive humans or a close relative were in the region as early as 2.12 million years ago. They are about 270,000 years older than the previous earliest evidence, which consists of bones and tools from Dmanisi in Georgia. Is that Russia? The research by a Chinese-British team appears in the journal Nature. The stone artifacts that were discovered at Shangqin on a plateau in northern China. They comprise different types of stone tools constructed for a variety of purposes. All show signs of having been used. Most were made of quartzite and quartz rock that probably came from the foothills of the Qinling Mountains, 5 to 10 kilometers to the south of the dig site, but we don't know for sure which species of human relative made them. And there's a map of sites where evidence of human presence has been found. Why does it matter? Humans left Africa at many times during their history. Living people outside Africa, for example, trace their origins to an exodus that occurred 60,000 years ago. But there has been no evidence of occupation by human relatives in Eurasia until the Dmanisi evidence at 1.8 million years ago. Writing in Nature, paleoanthropologist John Kappelman, who was not involved with the new study, commented the roughly 14,000 kilometre trek from Eastern Africa to Eastern Asia represents a range expansion of geometric proportions. Africa has traditionally been seen as the engine of human evolution, where key species arose before spreading out through the rest of the world. However, some scientists have proposed a more important role in this story for Asia. With these new finds, some researchers will wonder how much further back the human story goes in Asia. What prompted humans to leave Africa? Co-author Professor Robin Dennell from the University of Exeter, UK or United Kingdom, England, said he believes evidence from Ethiopia offers some clues. Early human relatives, hominins, learnt how to produce sharp stone flakes around 2.6 million years ago. That way they acquired a simple but effective toolkit that could strip meat off a carcass before they were chased off by bigger and stronger predators, e.g. lions, hyena. This opened up a new world for them, Professor Dennell told BBC News. He added, with those new skills, they were able to expand out of Africa into the grasslands and open woodlands of Asia in much the same type of environments as in East Africa. The Asian fauna at that point had never encountered a bipedal tool-using carnivorous ape before, and this, Professor Dennell suspected that hominins found it easy to acquire meat. The researchers found evidence for occupation of the plateau by ancient humans between 1.3 and 2.1 million years ago. Could we find even earlier evidence outside Africa? If our ancient relatives were in China by 2 million years ago, there must be earlier evidence in more westerly parts of Asia, closer to the exit point from Africa. Professor Robin Dennell explained, I think the hominin record in Asia could go back to 2.5 to 2.6 million years, around the time that hominins opened up a new niche by flaking stone. He said the discovery showed Asia was absolutely fundamental in human evolution. We are now moving beyond a Eurocentric view of human evolution in Eurasia. The Asian record for human evolution is proving to be as complex and fascinating as in Europe and Africa, said Professor Dennell. And he asked, did climate change have a role in this? Does this have anything to do with the Indonesian hobbit? Homo floresiensis, dubbed the hobbit, is a tiny extinct species of human that lived until about 12,000 years ago on the Indonesian island of Flores. One of the adults measured just 1.1 metre, 3.7 feet tall. Many scientists think the hobbit is a diminutive form of Homo erectus, long thought to be the first human species to leave Africa. Under this scenario, H. erectus, or Homo erectus, arrived on Flores hundreds of thousands of years ago and shrank in size after becoming isolated there. Others point out that aspects of the hobbit's anatomy look too primitive for Homo erectus to be the ancestor. They wonder whether the hobbit's progenitor was an Australopithecine, an earlier and more ape-like relative that roamed Africa that has never been found outside the continent. Professor Robin Dennell said, my preference is that the makers of the 2.1 million year old artifacts at Shangchen were a primitive form of Homo, human, which is not very unlike an Australopithecine at that point in time. This discovery does lend some support to the possibility that H. floresiensis has a primitive Australopithecine type ancestor. Obviously, we need the skeletal evidence as well as an open mind. There's so much that we don't know, and the Shangchen evidence is just another piece in a very complex jigsaw. So it's possibly we're hobbits, but not like on Lord of the Rings. 1 to 2 million years ago, according to the associated evidence. And it's got first human ancestor report. First human ancestor came from Europe, not Africa. 7.2 million year old fossils indicate, okay, and this is what they reckon it looks like, an artist's impression, probably someone who, it's either correct or it's incorrect, right? Because they're like backing evolution. Yeah. Artist impressions of Graecopithecus. Scientists have proposed this could be the oldest hominin ever discovered. Okay. You can listen to the article. Shall we listen to it? If it works.
First human ancestor came from Europe, not Africa. 7.2 million-year-old fossils indicate the first hominid species, a line that eventually leads to humans, may have emerged in Europe 7.2 million years ago and not Africa, the most widely accepted starting point for our ancestors. An international team of scientists has presented 2 studies that suggest the divergence point between chimpanzees and humans took place in the eastern Mediterranean rather than East Africa. Their findings, published in PLOS One, are based on 2 fossils of the species Greikopithecus freibergii, which were discovered in Greece and Bulgaria and have now been dated to between 7.2 and 7.1 million years ago. Previously, scientists had thought hominids and chimps split between 7 and 5 million years ago, with the first in the hominin line emerging in Africa. But these fossils, scientists say, tell a different story about the onset of human evolution. Both fossils, a lower jaw and an upper premolar, were examined using state-of-the-art computer tomography, allowing the scientists to look at their internal structures. Their findings show the teeth are fused in a way that is characteristic of early humans, including Ardipithecus and Australopithecus, the latter of which the famous Lucy fossil belongs to. The jawbone also had dental root features that appear to belong to a pre-human rather than to an ancient chimp.
We have done a video, we believe, on Lucy. We had a National Geographic magazine or something like that around somewhere, and it said that Lucy was fake. It was a fraud. And there was another ancestor found, and they had the bones, etc., that was like 4 million years older than that. We don't know where that magazine is. It's around somewhere, but we would present it to you and what it said in there. Yeah, we found it possibly waiting in a waiting room somewhere, and we picked it up and found it interesting, so we walked off with it. Okay, we'll continue with this.
This raises the possibility that the fossils represent the oldest hominid ever discovered, and that the major splits in the hominid family occurred outside Africa, they wrote. Researchers say environmental changes caused the divergence and used geological analysis to reconstruct the conditions from the Sahara to the Mediterranean during this time. They showed that the desert would have spread far into southern Europe, creating a barrier between Africa and the locations where Greikopithecus was found. The study has been met with skepticism because the vast majority of fossil evidence appears to suggest our ancestors emerged in Africa and migrated outwards. James Cole, senior lecturer in archaeology at the University of Brighton, UK, tells Newsweek that while the authors are cautious in saying Greikopithecus is potentially the oldest known hominid, their conclusions are still bold. What they are definitely suggesting is that rather than the divergence point that eventually leads to us, the hominin route, being in Africa, they are strongly suggesting, in both papers, that it is the eastern Mediterranean landscape where that is happening, which is remarkable. It's certainly not impossible that this is the case. The rate we are finding out about our hominin ancestors in terms of their evolutionary story over the last 5 years has been absolutely phenomenal. What it probably shows us, if anything, is that we don't know an awful lot. Cole says that the studies show that there was a connected landmass between Africa and Europe, and that the desert between them created a barrier, dividing populations and causing a new species to emerge. But the fossilized hominin is not necessarily our earliest ancestor and may have separated from some other early species that would eventually go on to become Ardipithecus. If we just try to look at it with hominin dispersals in context, there have certainly been primates and hominin species moving in and out of Africa, and we tend to see the drawings of the arrows moving in one direction, but there's no reason why they can't be bidirectional, he says. The strength of the study is showing we've been very East African focused for the origin point, and that focus perhaps needs to be broadened a bit more so than we've been willing to do in the past. That's not to say East Africa or the continent isn't the origin point, but I think it's clearly demonstrated that there is a lot going on around elsewhere in the Middle East and Europe. For me personally, I think Africa is still a strong contender for the split between chimpanzees, bonobos, and whatever ends up with us, ancient hominins, but they are certainly putting forward a case in these 2 papers that is well worth archaeologists, paleoanthropologists, experts in the field looking again at the record and thinking of if the African story does still stack up. In an email interview with Newsweek, study author Madeline Bulma says they do not doubt the presence of early hominins in Africa, but the oldest potential hominin has been found in Greece and Bulgaria. That is the fact we present. We not only provide the advanced hominin-like features of Greikopithecus and a very exact age, we importantly provide a totally new mechanism explaining the split of chimps and humans. We are calling it North Side Story. She says the barrier the desert would have created would have separated populations for at least 500 to 700,000 years. Wilma also says it is too easy to consider the specimens as just anomalies within the fossil record. I dismiss such views, she says, adding the next task will be to find more evidence to back up their findings. We will try to find new materials of Grapepithecus. The chances are now quite good. Just a quick word from our sponsor.
New Zealand. The cost of living really is a crisis for children in poverty. Rising rent and household bills mean there's often nothing left for little tummies. 15% of Kiwi kids, that's 144,000, regularly go hungry. But if you can donate just $15 to Kids Can, together we can make sure children in poverty get the food they urgently need right now. Please donate today at 15for15.org.nz.
First human ancestor.
Interesting article there, and add on at the end. Yeah, it's pretty bad. New Zealand, like, there's a lot of families just going, they got too many kids, or they got to buy petrol to go to work to get the money to feed the kids and all this sort of stuff. But that problem was solved and so on. We generally just, if we come across people like that, we buy them some food, We can't feed all of them. Obviously, you could donate to Kids Can, right? But does it really go to those families? We don't know that. So yeah, it's easy for us to just directly give donations of food or whatever, Maybe pay someone's, if they got a small shopping cost or whatever, at the supermarket, pay it forward, because that's what happened with us. Someone paid ours a couple of times, out of the blue. Yeah, it's just thinking about your fellow man, etc., etc.